Game Prices by Scott the Woz. I ended up watching his one of his other videos on a Patreon request, which was honestly really cool. I see why people talk highly about him. I see what his appeal is. I kind of want to hear his thoughts on games prices, because I have my own opinions.
Hey y'all, Scott here. This is money.
Is it though?
This is a video game.
How much is a video game worth to you?
Not $60, but I'll let you draw stuff on my face for one.
This is 80.
Oh God, I need to up the ante, don't I? Okay, I'll let you shoot me too.
Amazing.
The price of video games has always been a hot debate, primarily because these are wants, not needs.
Right.
That I say, why is my blood type Luigi's Mansion 2 HD? Hey, there's lots of ways to entertain yourself at affordable prices, hell, even free. What makes you so special? Well, funnily enough, looking throughout gaming history, we can see these prices aren't anything new. They're a bargain. $70 for NBA Hang Time on Super Nintendo. $75 for Mortal Kombat Trilogy on Nintendo 64. $100 for Virtual Racing on Sega Genesis. The question here isn't, are these games worth it?
The question is, are you worth them?
But see, there's gotta be a method to the madness. Why video games are priced the way they are. Cause something like this don't just happen on accident.
Oh, Butterfingers.
I've always seen big boy console games hovering around a $50 to $80 price point. 50
Yeah.
being the standard.
I'm sorry. No. We're gonna go back. I need to just stress. Oh God, please. Pokemon Coliseum $49.99. Would you like to know? So I got a second copy of Coliseum. Would you like to know what that was? All right, let me pull this out. So, and this was actually on sale technically, because these are actually down. A new copy of Pokemon XD Gale of Darkness, new. Not manual inbox. This isn't CIB. Disc looks in good condition though. $199.99. Pokemon XD Gale of Darkness. This one did come CIB. This did come with the manual inside. Disc was in good condition. I like the shop that it came from. $149.99. Dude, I wish these were still... I still wish these... Bro, you kidding me? You want to talk about Nintendo? You want to talk about $80 Nintendo pricing? I would pay $80 for these gladly. Silent Hill 3 on the PS2, I saw for like $230. It is insane.
Point. 50 being the standard during the 6th generation, 60 during the 7th and 8th, and 70 and 80 during the 9th. Now, there's been some oddball stipulations with these prices. For example, it seems that the move to HD consoles warranted the jump to $60, because while the Xbox 360 and PS3 priced their games as such, the Wii, not being in HD, stuck to $50 games. But then with the jump to Wii U, now that we're in HD, boom, $60. So this is definitively what a AAA video game in HD costs.
This this is why $69.99. Like I bought Battlefield 6 to try and stream this the night of reacting to this. This is why a modern AAA game is supposed to be benchmarked at $69.99, $70. So and then Nintendo pushed the bar further, which it's anti-consumer. I'm aware. My stance, my controversial stance has been wanting Nintendo to force the $80 price point, because if it's under $80, clearly Nintendo does not believe it will do well. It seems like Nintendo has, for all intents and yes, they said it with variable pricing. Clearly, it feels like Nintendo has walked back the $80 price point, at least for now. But it's definitely one of those. If a official Nintendo Switch 2 game like launches and it is below $79.99, I just assume there's problems with it. That is the power of Nintendo's Switch 2 Direct and how it appealed to me. I bought my Switch 2 as a premium console with the expectation that there would be $80 games. That would be Nintendo's seal of approval. But clearly that's not the case. And I mean, to be fair, it's like, well, if that was your expectation, it's doomed from the start. Oh, that's where the 300 IQ play comes in. Because now I can say, this is what they tried to sell. I bought it for that reason. They realized it was dumb, but I'm still going to try and force them to do the original thing because they know it hurts their business model. That's the one.
Write that down.
Righto. That statement will be proven false
later. Now, going from something like PS3 to PS4, game prices stayed the same, even for titles that were cross-generation. The PS3 version of Little Big Planet 3, $59.99. The PS4 version, same price, though it ran at 1080p, had faster load times. They offered this Day 1 edition with DLC included for no extra cost. It seems that oftentimes, the improvements included in the PS4 versions, they were considered par for the course. Hey, HD video games may cost $60, but you're playing on more modern and expensive hardware. Yeah, the games both cost the same, but it only makes sense for this version to be the better value.
So the other thing as well is that certain games just don't end up playing on modern hardware. I guess Fallout 3, but I guess I'm going to use Bethesda for this example specifically. Fallout 3 is notoriously weird to run on modern hardware, right? Oblivion Remastered, right, is an ability for people to experience Oblivion, like kind of the way I did, like back on the 360, and those who experienced it via PC, right? But obviously, you know, doesn't have a lot of the technical issues that go into that. So that's kind of why like re-releases can be good. But I think you can take it to the extent Nintendo, and I guess by extension the entire AAA games market is right now, where it's only remakes and remasters, and there's no like originality because it's seen as too not safe. And this is why indie games are doing so well right now, because they're actually doing things. Expedition 33, right? Or more indie teams, right? Indie and AA, select AA are going to be where the games market is. AAA, that boat has sailed. Like, oh, that is such an interesting thing to watch happen.
However, once we moved from PS4 to PS5, this was where we received another price jump, but seemingly only for exclusive PS5 software. Games that had PS4 versions were $60 at most, but here we have Demon's Souls, a PS5 exclusive launch title, at $70. Didn't matter.
Why isn't Bluepoint? Like, I guess, like, it's so weird, because, like, Bluepoint did this, or, like, what is it, Blur? Who did the like Halo? What did Blur do? Did they do the 5? No, they did Halo 2 remastered. Is what they did. Halo 2 Anniversary. But like, it feels like they're just not being utilized, or maybe they're utilized on projects we just don't hear about, right? Like, you're telling me the studio that gave us H2A just like isn't being utilized to like remake Halo 3? Isn't being used for another sick looking game? Like, this feels like a waste of talent, like, by the AAA games industry.
That it was a remake of a PS3 game with barely any content added. The remake is PS5 exclusive, so it's getting PS5 exclusive pricing. So what, HD games are 60, and since the PS5 can more easily do 4K, I guess that warrants 70. But if a PS5 game is also on PS4, it stays at 60. However, Sony switched up their policy. We got a few PS4, PS5 games from them where the PS4 version is 60 and the PS5 one is 70.
You can start seeing here that this is companies trying to test what will and won't work, and it helps to normalize the price point. You can only play Demon's Souls Remastered on the PS5 is going to be valued at 70 because of the only supplier is going to be PlayStation, right? You can only play this on PS5. I guess emulators technically worked. I don't know the state of PS5 emulation, if I'm being completely honest. I just have no interest in buying a PS5, so this was a non-issue for me. But for people who wanted to play Demon's Souls, right, like, you had to have a PS5, you had to buy into that walled garden, much like if you want to play something like Zelda Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom, or Mario Kart World, you have to buy into the walled garden that is Nintendo Switch, right? The Nintendo Switch 2 specifically. Well, you can play on the old... Anyways, getting into the weeds there. But, like, that's the thing, is like, that's their value proposition. You can only play this there, therefore there's a little more leverage, right? Something like Resident Evil 4, while it is playable on PS4 and PS5, you can also play it on Xbox, you can also play it on PC, right? So there's less of a value proposition there, so that's sticking to that normalized price point. There's a couple things that go into this, and through enough time, you'll start seeing a gradual increase in price, right? Despite us, like, it not even compensating. Oh, but you know, something supply issues because of the unspecified unnamed virus of unspecified origin. Mate, it's 2025. If you're still having supply issues, that's a you thing. You should probably not be in this line of work. Also, we're getting, like he went over in his physical digital only games where like they're not even manufacturing the discs in a lot of ways, so they're cutting costs and yet they're still charging more. Oh, but inflation, I mean, you're also the most like unregulated market on the planet, or at least one of the most unregulated market on the planet. The $60 price point is kind of the courtesy lick instead of like, well, no, it is the courtesy lick because that's before you give us all the battle passes that expire, all of the macrotransactions, really, inability to deal with cheaters in a lot of cases. I hear Sea of Thieves is having an issue again. Apex has a lot of cheaters, right? You'll have people who completely just DDoS lobbies. Like there's, I guess, one guy in Titanfall 2 that holds lobbies hostage, and hey, you need to say the N-word, and if nobody says it, he just DDoSes the server, right? Like or Concord, where it's like, yeah, we're gonna charge whatever. Like you charge 60 because at least when you say you're refunding us, at least it's 60. We're not paying premium just for you to kind of get away with stuff. I don't know. I have immense biases with how businesses operate in the sphere. I think that the $60 is at least a courtesy lick before they completely just rail you.
You can play the PS4 version on your PS5, so that's an easy way to save 10 bones. But think about what you're missing out on by not spending that extra dough.
Oh my god, I'm missing out on getting rid of this fucking thing.
That's why if you have the last generation version, you can purchase its PS5 upgrade for a measly 10 bones. Now, what do you get for that? Can you see it?
Oh, yeah, well, the PS4 version over there looks... Huh?
I love Most Critical of Charlie's video on this. I don't remember what it was. I think it was some kind of PS5 demo, I think, where he's like, I guess if you like look with like, I don't know, like a telescope, maybe you can see some like pixelation difference. Oh, it's really funny.
It's actually the PS5 version? I'll just chalk it up to me being insane. I am talking to nobody after all.
Yes,
yeah, I
there
feel
is
that.
a difference, but why do I have to pay for this upgrade when numerous PS4 games like God of War from 2018 got a PS5 update free of charge? That added the same exact kind of performance bumps that's costing me $10 whole with its sequel. And while the enhancements on PS5 are very welcome and make for a more enjoyable experience with smoother gameplay, a more stable frame rate, it's not like the PS4 version runs poorly, hell, especially if you're playing it on the PS5 through backwards compatibility. I feel like we were getting bigger jumps with the previous consoles.
We were.
Yet we weren't paying extra like we are here. But I guess
this reminds me very much of graphics cards, where each generation provides minimal benefits. Like, it does provide benefits, right? I'm sure going from like a 4080, well, 3080 to a 4080 is a big jump. A 4080 to even a 5080, I'm sure, is a big jump, right? But why would they have to keep pushing the envelope from a business standpoint? Why would they have to keep pushing the envelope when they could just slow roll minimalistic upgrades over a period of time? Almost kind of like a weird subscription service, right? Not quite though, right? Well, 5080 came out, might as well swap out my 4080 to a 5080, and then obviously barring issues, right? And then the 6080 will come out. Well, better get rid of my 5080 for a 6080, right? And it's like, but like, you're not getting the jump from like what, a 980 to a 1080 to a 2080, right? Like, you're not getting as big of jumps, right? I feel this is just where business devolves, right? Where you try to play it so safe that you make sure that, like, sure, maybe in 5 years you do what you used to do in one, but you're providing incremental upgrades to be safe and to kind of train your constituents, the people purchasing, right? You just train them to just keep coming back, right? Almost kind of like card game sets, if you think about it, right? Well, Yu-Gi-Oh came out with a new set, or Magic came out with a new set, and you're like, well, I got to go do my buy list. I got to make sure I'm maybe buying some sealed product for stream. Or if you're a scalper, obviously you're like, well, how much of this can I actually scalp and flip for a profit, right? And then it's like, cool, you're good. And then Pokemon or Magic releases a new set, and you're like, well, cool, got to go buy that again, right? Like, you don't have to, right? But like, I don't know. There's some isms that kind of cross between the two, but like TCGs, especially right now with all the scalping and stuff, are very much a collector's market, very much collector bubble status. So that one's a very interesting one to kind of pick apart. But yeah, at its core, why would you ever sell a big jump? Why would you ever sell quality? Which I heard there were issues with the 50 series of cards. I guess the connector or something was so small that it acted like an actual heater because it was so small. And even with the 50 series, they also got rid of tech where Borderlands 1 and 2 doesn't even run anymore, as far as I'm aware, or at least it has trouble running because of something they removed in the 50 series. So you sit there and kind of just scratch your head and you're like, why are we paying for stuff when they just keep removing features and it's only negligible upgrades?
There's just this golden rule that games from this era of console cannot be $70. Unless you want to fuck around a little bit. So Activision was able to weasel $70 games onto the PS4 by bundling the $10 upgrade to the PS5 version in as a mandatory inclusion. Doesn't matter if you don't own a PS5, you're getting a PS5 game whether you like it or not.
I view this as not maybe some cost fallacy, but like that very much feeds into marketing, right? Well, but I have the PS5 version, so I mean I might as well just go buy a PS5, you know, after the whole, you know, unknown virus or unspecified origin incident, right? Where they only made like 7 PS5s like ever, right? Oh my god, that was a time. But like, yeah, it's like, well, you're already invested at that point. So it kind of comes as testing the waters, but I think it's actually a pretty genius marketing strategy. A little scummy in my opinion, right? But like that would be why they're trying to, you know, it tries to feed into its own ecosystem.
So, it seems like the only method these companies have to price games above that $60 price point on these last generation consoles is to create bundles. As long as the base package is at most $60, even if that base package isn't available for purchase, it's all good. Just don't even think about pricing a standalone game higher than that on these consoles. But Scott, you squeal, what if you stop giving a shit?
Oh, okay, under those circumstances, sure.
Nintendo Switch games priced at $70. Even when the max game price for the majority of the console's life was $60, in 2023, I discovered anything is possible. Even bullshit. The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom was priced the exact same as all these big PS5 and Xbox Series X games. Even
I disagreed with it. I disagree with it being 70. I thought that was incredibly scummy, if I'm being completely honest. Like, I did one singular, like, 9-hour stream. I literally haven't gone back. I need to at some point. I need to experience it and play it just to be able to say, yeah, I played it. Still prefer something like Majora's Mask more, because I know that's going to be what it comes down to. Like, I hated when they did this.
It was running on hardware most comparable to... give me a second. All right, now, keep in mind, it's not that I don't think Tears of the Kingdom itself isn't worth $70.
I do.
Rather, up until this point, price points of most traditional video games seem to be dictated by the hardware it was on, not the game itself.
It's comparable to that.
Like, was Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart on PS5 truly worth $70 compared to all these games that were $60 just because they were on a console where that was the standard? Nintendo stated they based the prices of their games on a case-by-case basis.
I know why they say it. They do it so that way they can back out of it later. That way, if it is a test, Nintendo's testing the waters, and if it goes poorly, yeah, they'll probably like bring it down. I don't know, but even then, they probably will just say like, you know, hey, well, even if resounding sentiment is it's a bad decision, you know, eventually just be like, you know, it's the normalization over a period of time, right? Consistent. Pushing it consistently over a larger period of time, thus it becomes normalized, right? I don't know. I think that they should just be forced to have all their games at 80, if I'm being completely honest. Anything Switch 2 should be 80. I want to watch Nintendo. I want to watch them like see consequences for their business decisions. I think that would be incredibly fair. Like me, and that's the thing. If I see a Switch 2 game and it is not $80, I assume Nintendo doesn't believe in it. I assume that they do not believe in the product and that it will not be a good product. That's me personally. You can argue with that. That's fine. You're entitled to your own opinion. The fact that they even floated 80 means that business-wise, they are eyes on that $80 price point. So anything below that, variable pricing, what if the game's 60? They clearly didn't put effort into it. What if the game's $70? Well, clearly they just aren't. They don't believe in it enough to charge $80 for it, right? I have a very biased and black and white view, but I am also incredibly... Nintendo is on a very... How do I word this? because of the whole Homeland Security thing and Nintendo refusing to sue, because they'll sue their fans, don't get me wrong, they'll sue fan projects and stuff. Oh, 100%, right? Because Nintendo didn't choose to sue, that just showed me that their integrity as a company, to me specifically, is shot. They have no integrity. That was my line in the sand for them. So yeah, sell me $80 games. You don't believe in this, clearly. I am very black and white and critical of Nintendo as somebody who has grown up on, the 64, the GameCube, Zelda, Pokemon, etc. Like, I very much have ran out of patience with them. Them showing that they would much rather sue their fans than, what they claim is an alleged unauthorized use of copyright. What they claim is, I disagree with. That was you need to do this because you have precedent of being legal. You have precedent of getting litigious, and you choosing not to has now made me effectively write your company off.
The case here being, can we get away with this?
Yeah.
With Tears of the Kingdom, I mean, it made sense. Clocked in at 16 gigabytes tall, meaning they had to use a mighty expensive 32 gigabyte game card to house it all. Didn't stop The Witcher 3 from being a flat 60, even though it used a 32 gig card too. But Tears of the Kingdom is a new game, a massive game, one that reuses loads of content and assets from Breath of the Wild.
It's just the attempted Majora's Mask of Breath of the Wild. It uses the same assets, right?
$60 game designed for a console from 2012 whose hardware is most similar to a console from 2005.
It does include the DLC, though.
Damn, they should be paying me to buy this.
All right, let's be fair. Did the enjoyment I got out of this game justify the price tag? I would undoubtedly say yes. The fact of the matter is, this was a special situation. You can argue it all you want, but Tears of the Kingdom could probably be considered the peak of what Nintendo Switch was capable of in terms of a game's scope. This was an impressive title, even by the standards of far more powerful consoles. If any Nintendo Switch game deserved to be $70, Mortal Kombat 1. This game didn't even release on PS4 or Xbox One. They probably considered the Nintendo Switch to be a current generation console, and thus its price point reflected that. And nothing else did. I'm confused, because the publisher Warner Brothers released Hogwarts Legacy, like their biggest release ever, on PS5 for $70 and Nintendo Switch for $60. Why do this with just Mortal Kombat? What is it, because Hogwarts got a PS4 version?
I wonder if that has to do with their publisher. I wonder if that has to do with like the actual like subjective people or subjective companies actually submitting. Like, I don't think that's Nintendo specifically.
Let me get this straight. This is at the same level as that, even when it obviously isn't. But this is where the line is drawn, where the quality is too damn high to continue to suffer, warranting a $60 price point. See, I almost respect this more. Like, what is there to argue? It's just fucking stupid. Okay, after all that, let's take everything we've learned and try to answer this. What makes a game 70? Son of a bitch, they're 80 now. With the
Yep. I honestly think Mario Kart World at release was a $50 game. And then obviously Nintendo pushes out the patches and like makes it so that way. Like, what was it? People wanted to do like not free roam, but like the actual tracks. And they were queuing up, I think, for a specific thing online to queue into just those. And Nintendo said, "No, we don't want that." I think it's a $50 game. Like, I have a single stream up on the gaming channel of it. And sure, you could argue I'm kind of biased because I didn't play it with anyone else. I was just kind of playing alone. Yeah, like the intermission tracks. Like, people didn't want the intermission tracks, right? But Nintendo says, nah, we want you to play the intermission tracks, right? I think it was a $50 game. I don't think it was worth $80. 100%. But Nintendo wants to charge $80 for it, and I expect them to charge $80 for every single Switch 2 game, which they refuse to, which once again, in my opinion, does tank their credibility to me specifically.
Release of Mario Kart World on Nintendo Switch 2, $80 became the standard for cream of the crop gaming. Now,
bro, Nintendo's just the knocko. Nintendo always chickens out. That's the one.
I don't think there's any pitter-pattering around these video game price points anymore. Some publishers realized, what's genuinely stopping us from charging whatever we want? You want to charge $80 for your game? Do it. Nintendo's reason for why Mario Kart is $80? Because it's worth it. Well, you think they have some math equation to show you explaining themselves?
No.
All right. That makes sense now. Thank God you understand gibberish.
What we just went through here showcases the game industry's everlasting struggle to warrant higher price points until eventually realizing, who cares? cares?
Yeah.
Now, am I enraged at the jump to $80? Will I boycott publishers not sticking to an agreed upon maximum price point? Now, respectfully, who the f am I to do any of that?
I'm awful.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of this at all, but why are we acting like purchasing a video game for children is making some sort of statement? Either you think it's worth it or you don't. It's
This. Hard agree. Everything I've just said about, say, like Nintendo and stuff, that is my own personal opinion. If you want to play the game, buy the game. Like, you're an adult. You have your own free agency, right? Like, and this thing, if you come out of this and you're like, I don't agree with your stance on $80 and forcing Nintendo to sell games for $80, I think that's BS. You're allowed to. No one's saying you can't. Look, to be like, we just went over like XD Gale of Darkness, $199.99, Coliseum, $149.99 earlier, right? I pulled out my copies, right? Like, I have paid way more than $80 for games. Like, I will pay for the quality if it's there. I will pay for it if I can get enjoyment out of it, if I need it, right? But that's me specifically, right? Like Pokemon Box, I still have to source a copy of Pokemon Box, both JP and English. That English copy is going to cost a lot. But, like, I'll do it if that's required, right? Absolutely. So, I mean, that's my own personal thing, right? I will very much look at, especially when it comes to, like, emulation, because I own my copies if I'm emulating something like that, right? If I want to emulate something like Wind Waker HD, guess who got Wind Waker HD? I have it on my Wii U, literally on the other side of this room, right? That Wii U stays plugged in constantly. And, well, but technically it was via the eShop, and, you don't technically own it because, you can't access eShop servers anymore. Cool. I'll go to eBay or Amazon right now and I'll go buy a copy of Wind Waker HD. Literally do not care. I will own my things and then emulate the things. I have a GB operator on my desk right here. If I want to go plug in my copy of Pokemon Red or Fire Red Leaf Green, I'll go plug it in, right? Like, I will own the things to do the things. That is how I approach these things, right? Yes, it will cost a lot, absolutely. However, I will pay if the quality and need is there. You have to provide the value proposition. Well, what's the value proposition of XD Gale of Darkness costing $200? Well, I mean, honestly, one of the best Pokemon games I've played personally. I like the story. I like that it has connectivity with the Gen 3 games, Fire Red, Leaf Green, Ruby, Sapphire, Emerald. I like that you're able to transfer Pokemon back and forth. I like that you're able to get Lugia and Ho-Oh from Coliseum and XD Gale of Darkness. I could list reasons. I mean, I could just summarize it. I think it's fun personally. But just to circle back, if you have a different opinion, that's fine. If you and from a reasonable standpoint, Nintendo shouldn't be pricing games at $80 because that's very anti-consumer. I'm also going to give that part of the screen time. It's why I clarify, right? Like, if you want to buy something, buy it. That's fine. You're allowed to have your own opinions.
not deep. Everybody's perception of value is different. Nobody's right or wrong. You don't need to buy that toy on the shelf, but if you refuse, you're not better than anybody who doesn't. Well, you think the guy who's judging anybody who bought Mario Kart World and all those internet comment sections is like a cool guy?
Damn, Golden Grounds are stickier than they were last week.
Well, so I bet if I look at all the crap you buy, it'll all check out. Everything will make
Wow, that is a lot of copies of Adam Sandler Click.
perfect financial sense. Now, does that mean you're off the hook?
How is
if
it on
you
the UMD?
defend Nintendo's pricing here? Buddy, what is there to defend? Oh, I gotta stick it up for the multi-billion-dollar company. They need my help.
I will lick this for them.
Okay, what I'm saying is, let's not judge the people not buying or buying games at these prices. Let's judge the companies setting them. Because judging each and every person for buying something that you personally wouldn't, we'll be here all damn day.
Not the menopause relief. So when you start judging people, it very much comes down to if they're being a hypocrite or not, right? The reason people jumped on Subordinary Gamers is because he habitually, right, slagged off the Switch 2, wasn't going to buy this, and he caved and got it, right? You could argue the same thing about me. Bach and I discussed this how many times on stream, and I'm like, yeah, I'm probably not going to buy Switch 2. And I bought it. That opens me up to criticism, 100%. And let me tell you a secret. Most people don't care. They really don't, right? Like, this is what he's getting at. You think the person being this, I am holier than thou, saying $80 game bad or Switch 2 bad is some moral authority, right? Like, it's a case-by-case basis. And you should be, yes, judging the company. Note what I'm saying. I'm not saying to torch and pitchfork people who buy $80 games, right? It's Nintendo really is pushing that $80 price point, and they made sure to cover their tracks with the variable pricing and not saying that it would be every title. They're doing the whole legal, dance, right? But like, bro, if you think that it's worth $80, just charge $80. We will judge it on its merit. Grats. If you don't think it's worth $80, then don't say $80. Just say $70. Simple as.
I personally think the only time you should shit on somebody directly due to whether they're buying this stuff or not is if they're being an ass about it. If they aren't, and they just bought this game because they wanted to play it, or they refuse because they don't agree with the price, well, who the hell are you to tell them how to spend their money? How is any of this productive? They already bought the thing, or they've already told you they don't agree with buying the thing. Why the hell do you care if they buy it or not? Focus on yourself, Bubba. Why are you defending Nintendo so much? That splotch on your arm has been there for weeks. Get off the computer and go to the damn doctor. But listen, just because some games get priced like this doesn't mean this works as the standard moving forward. What, are you really gonna take a risk on an unproven entity when it costs that much? And you can only really charge $80 or above for a game franchise that's a known quantity with high demand.
Dude, if GTA 6 could charge $200, they would. I've absolutely been the singular voice who's like, just charge $250 for it. You're going to. You know, if you could charge it, you would get away with this. I am... Well, because GTA 6 was supposed to be 2025, right? Like, it got pushed off to 2025, and now it's pushed off to 2026 now, right? Are they going to push it off to 2027 next? Like, I'm convinced this game will never actually come out, and then it will come out, right? I'm convinced people will just go back to GTA 5, if I'm being honest, until maybe 2 or 3 years after, and GTA 6 reaches some sort of like similar level. I see a lot of launch issues, if I'm being honest, right? And then like even then, like people have sunk cost fallacy on GTA 5, right? There's a non-zero chance it's getting delayed, bro. And at that point, this is the same issue that I have. We were talking about this. This is the same issue that I have with like Disney saying, "Oh, well, there's going to be an Acolyte season 2 before season 1 launches," or like Fallout happened to be the good one, right? But like, oh well, Fallout's already greenlit for 2 seasons, or insert series that's already greenlit for a second season, and they never follow through. That should honestly like come with legal repercussions, right? Because you're using it as marketing. Hi, Acolyte season 2 is already greenlit. Okay, well, I will be expecting a season 1 and a season, regardless of how you feel on it, right? From a business standpoint, you're looking at this and going, you are proposing that there's already a guaranteed 2 seasons for this, so I have to look forward to 2 seasons worth of this content, right? Whether it's good, bad, whatever, right? And then it's kind of a soft marketing, because then they could just say, oh yeah, we're not doing it, right? Kind of like what was it? Mass Effect Andromeda with the whole battle pass. Oh well, it's not a promise. It's it's not a guarantee. It's a promise that this could happen, right? Mass Effect Andromeda obviously being the big one, or Concord. It's just like, yeah, we have all the support planned, we're going to do all this, and then they just shelve the game and give you a refund, right? There needs to be repercussions to businesses doing this. If you don't greenlight a season 2 yet, don't say that in your marketing. If you have a roadmap, look, for problems I feel people could give with Space Marine 2, right? I hear Horde mode has its issues. Seems like they've been sticking with that roadmap pretty well, right? I mean, I have to give that props. It seems good to me. Yeah, so that's a big sticking point for me. It very specifically has to come down to businesses not being held accountable, and I feel an abuse of marketing, a abuse of using soft information or malleable information that they can back out of at any time, and there being no repercussions or expectations. I disagree with us on a fundamental business level, which you would be correct. I've been promising things like a playthrough of Nier, both games, Replicant and Automata on the gaming channel. I've been promising Dark Souls 2. I've been promising a lot. I think that, and I feel bad about it. I feel bad when I have to, backlog a bunch of React content, and then I'm too tired to do gaming stuff and let the gaming channel sit, right? I feel guilty for this. I think there is some grace because I'm a single individual, or like YouTubers and streamers are small teams, right? They're not a giant corporation that promises you stuff and doesn't have to legally follow through on it. That's my sticking point here.
But even then, this price point isn't a sign of quality. It's more so a sign of greed. Like, they can do this, so they will do this. For example, Microsoft attempted the move to $80 games with The Outer Worlds 2,
they did.
citing market conditions and rising development costs, only to go, just kidding, months later. So you acted like this price tag was 100% necessary, and when nobody was buying it, you cited market conditions again and went back to $70 games, which, mind you, many already feel is too high.
Yeah.
This just tells me these higher price points aren't as necessary as these companies would like you to believe. But I think what's most annoying is, on top of all these price increases, many of these games are more monetized than ever before. More
I hate that.
microtransactions, loot boxes, advertisements, doing dear God anything but paying the actual developers of these games more.
Yeah, the AI generated Santa. Oh, dude, Call of Duty is in a state. I can't wait to see Black Ops 7 release. So obviously Battlefield 6, right? You have to understand, I hate EA. I hate EA for killing Dead Space multiple times, okay? I very much have issues with them. So I'm giving Battlefield 6 a chance. I'm expecting it to be good for 3 months to a year, and then it's going to get shitified. I'm already aware of this. I want to see how Battlefield 6 performs in the face of Black Ops 7 releasing. I'm very curious to see what happens.
Being printed on a physical video game that don't include a damn thing on the disc.
Modern gaming.
Yeah.
Yeah, prices keep going up, and oftentimes there's no particular reason for that happening other than the desire to make more money. Which we can't blame them for that. Everybody wants to make more money. How else would I be able to do what I love most? And of course, the economy. Oh, that son of a bitch, he ruins everything. My dad lost his job, my aunt's house has been foreclosed, my cousin's been psychologically tormented by all these money issues, and Mario Kart World is $80? Jesus, just why can't we live in the era of gaming where all of this wasn't an issue, when it was about the games, man?
I'm convinced it's a mix of big money getting involved in gaming. And I'm going to say this is more of a shitpost entry. I think normies ruin gaming. So I half joke about gatekeep because I'm very much like, nobody should feel gatekept from something, right? I'm very much a proponent of not gatekeeping things. I heard I saw a comment on YouTube once that was like, the internet was ruined because normies got on it. And I think about that. And you apply this to different things, right? Gaming kind of got ruined when normies got involved in it, right? Like, people argue Warhammer got involved when normies got involved in it. Don't get me wrong. I have my issues with both the 40K community and I have my issues with Games Workshop. Like, I am... I enjoy the setting. I think that both sides have their issues, if I'm being honest, right? But I think it's also disingenuous to really, like, to blame normies. I think that there needs to be... So I was thinking about this last night, right? Genuinely thinking about this last night. I come from a time where I could pick up a book like Robert Jordan, The Lord of Chaos. I think it's book 6 in the Wheel of Time series, right? And you can go, you know, I thought it was interesting. I thought that it's interesting following Rand and Matt and Perrin, kind of having your, you know, certain flashes to Padan Fane, right? I mean, it's kind of cool. I think it's a little long-winded, personally. I think that, you know, a lot of the Aes Sedai braid tugging and skirt pleating is a little overdone. I think that the first 200 pages of any Robert Jordan book are generally pretty good. Then you have like the middle 400 to 600, and then the last 200 pages kind of pick up, right? Very long-winded. That doesn't say that I hate it. I'm like, you know what? It's cool. Like, yeah, I can see what it's doing. I just have to sink time into this, and I have my criticisms and critiques. It's not me like hating it. It's not me like disparaging it. Like, I have my criticisms. I can say this is what this is presenting. I do and don't like it about this, and I move on, right? But like, nowadays, it's so normalized that if you don't like something about something, you just kind of complain about it and you force other people to like fall in line. Like Space King, right? Space King pokes a lot of jabs at 40K. Let's be honest, right? The beginning of episode 3, right? With the I've done it. I've synthesized a female whatever, right? And then everyone the oh shit alarm sounds and they just nuke the planet, right? It's really funny, right? And that's the thing is, like, Space King is for everybody. yes, it's going to, I feel, overwhelmingly appeal to men, right? But that's not saying you can't enjoy it as someone who's not a dude, right? Like, I think that we need to return to that. It's okay to have criticisms. It's okay to have critiques. It's okay to not like something. It's okay to love something. But, like, there's a point where it gets so over-involved and you kind of choke. And don't get me wrong, this is also coupled because, like what Space King, like what Flash Gets does, is, like, that's why they have the whole, like, hate monger, we will send an email every time we get merch dropped, right? Or get merch bought, right? Because unnamed network tried to pick them up, right? And it's like, they stick to what they want to do. They're not worried about, like, sure, I'm sure they're worried about metrics and stuff, right? But, like, it's not about catering to people. It's about telling a story. It's about creating and crafting an experience. It's about making art. And that's the thing, is that's completely fine. It's not malicious and it's mockery. I would say so as well. I think it pokes a lot of fun, and I think that a lot of people will get upset, especially like in the Imaginator with the whole, like, you know, female Space Marine jab. But, like, I don't think anybody reasonably cares. Let's be honest. I think we all just kind of laugh and snicker at it, right? Like, we all just kind of, like, you know, collectively just kind of giggle, right? It's funny. I don't know. That's my bit on that. I think that criticism needs to come back in a way that it's fine to not like something, but realistically, you should be, like, going into something to learn about it. You should go into something being with an open mind, right? Why are things the way that they are, right? And if, you know, someone like Games Workshop decides to push things like Femstos, Terminus Decree, Retcon, that's on Games Workshop at that point. Like, they're actively, like, shooting the Dead Space 2 javelin into their proverbial Space Marine foot at that point. Because let's be real, they do like them Ultramarines. Bro, I don't know. I'm going off the deep end on this one.
Not leaving the sink on at Target. Cashier sold me this game for $80. This'll teach him. His games have always been expensive, but they've never been this bad.
Adjusted for inflation, they've been worse, technically, I think. Yeah, I remember those.
Well, I don't see what the problem is. I did get more for that absurd price. Plastic garbage and shit in my pants.
Including crap has always been an excellent excuse to charge more.
Oh, absolutely.
What, this isn't worth it? How about now? Let's take a look at the Guitar Hero and Rock Band era, when these games were taking over the world. Sure, the first few releases were more expensive than your average standalone video game at $70 on the PlayStation 2, but this was such a unique, innovative thing at the time that you could definitely understand it. Now fast forward a few years and we have Guitar Hero World Tour with just the guitar controller at $100. Now,
World Tour was when I think that it started going downhill. Like, I played 3 on the Wii. I got to about, I think I could do up through Hell on Expert, but once I got to Hell, I really started to hit a wall there, especially with, like, 1. I could do Through the Fire and the Flames on hard. I had a 50-50 shot at doing that. But then I got World Tour, and it didn't feel correct. It didn't feel right.
Let's keep in mind, this guitar is completely wireless, so I think a higher price point is fair enough. Plus, Xbox 360 and PS3 games were normally $60, including this one, as it was available standalone if you already had a compatible guitar controller. However, the idea of a Guitar Hero game without any controller included being valued at the same price as every other AAA release is absurd. Sure, you can play Guitar Hero with a regular-ass gamepad, but is it worth the looks on the street you're gonna get?
Oh man, I tried doing it with an Xbox 360 controller when I played it once, Guitar Hero 3 specifically. Oh, it felt so rough. Like, it's cool, you can do it, right? I think the achievement references, like, get a guitar controller or something. Like, there's an achievement for doing it. It's funny.
And everybody's looking at me like I'm a freak.
Damn controller.
Okay, at least the Wii release was $50 standalone, but the guitar bundle was still $100, and on Wii, the guitar was fully powered by your Wii remote. Now listen, I'm not gonna try and act like I know how this stuff works. I am gonna try and act like I know how to bitch about it. Shouldn't this be cheaper to produce if the Wii remote's doing all the heavy lifting here? I mean, the Xbox 360 guitar has to function on its own. This is siphoning all the wireless capabilities and power from the controller, on top of the game itself being less expensive on its own. But hey, at this point, you might as well go all in on the full-blown bundle with the microphone and drum set at $190. I mean, at nearly double the price of the guitar kit, I can't in good conscience do this.
No.
But at the same time, the drums are
Legend.
much bigger, more complicated. Sure, I don't think this is a good deal, but look how huge this box is. Can't say
Big
the
box.
price shocks me. However, 1 year later, here's Band Hero with all the same junk included for $200.
Gross.
But see, those bastards across the street at Rock Band, they got us covered. The Beatles Rock Band Value Edition. $160 for everything. They're just using the controllers from Rock.
What I remember seeing this in a Game Informer, I think, back in the day. Was didn't they? What Beatles song is it? Guaranteed to Blow Your Mind, like Dynamite with a Laser Beam. I genuinely don't remember the song. I'm sorry, I don't listen to a lot of the Beatles. Didn't they actually censor like Blow and Blow Your Mind? Like, wasn't there a whole thing over that?
Band 1 instead of the special Beatles ones, which cost
Gross.
Money?
well, that's nice of them, offering a more affordable version that's functionally the exact same as the one costing an arm and a leg. Damn, that's what arms and legs are going for these days. But at this point in time, you could nab the full Rock Band 2 bundle for 100 bones. Then pick up Beatles Rock Band separately for 60, so you'd get everything the Value Edition gives you,
Feel like my thing.
plus Rock Band 2 for the same price.
Oh, those are Queen lyrics. I'm sorry. I'm gonna eat the L on that one then. Bro, I am. My brain is clearly not here. I'm sorry. We're 45 minutes into 15 minutes. I'm sorry.
Hell, if you'd want to go even cheaper, the Wii version of Beatles Rock Band was priced the same as any other Wii game. Why was this game $60 on Wii? I thought standalone Wii games with no extra garbage included were $50 at most. No exceptions. I guess anything goes when you're pumping out a dozen variants of the same goddamn game in 1 year. These accessory games, man, acting like they can do whatever they want. And that might be true for a bit, especially when they're bringing a fresh, exciting idea to the table. But over time, fatigue sets in. These concepts are no longer as novel as they once were. And when prices rise like this, it becomes harder to justify, especially when numerous companies were passing out deals back then. So many controller bundles, accessories included at no additional cost. It's like you were being rewarded for buying into this crap. My grandfather got a Purple Heart. We play Wii Remote Bundle for $50. Oh my god, and all the great prices for digital software at the time. Look at this. 6 to 10 bones for PlayStation 1 games on the PS3 store.
God, I miss it. I miss when like virtual games like this were actually just really affordable.
What a steal! Some of the greatest games of all time.
Silent
with
Hill.
hundreds of hours.
Oh my god, I would love if I could pay $5.99 for Silent Hill 1. Oh, that hurts.
Of content in some cases. Same goes for all the Stone Cold classics on the Wii Shop channel. I mean, NES games were all only $5 a pop.
I remember this. Yep. I think the Wii version of the Wii port of Majora's Mask, I think is one of the best ones for running, if I remember correctly. I'd pay $5 for that.
Put a dollar amount on me, please. I gotta know if I'm better than this.
I appreciate that Nintendo was consistent with prices. Might have been a little too consistent. Well, actually, some games were more expensive if they were never released in your country. But there's an import tax on a digital file?
I've never actually played Sin and Punishment. I'm very curious from someone who's played Sin and Punishment. What's the appeal? I've never played it. I had a buddy in high school who I guess loved it.
Anything, they should charge less. They don't even translate anything. Okay, well, what about old games over on the Xbox 360's digital store? Well, Microsoft ran a service called Game Room, a virtual arcade where you could buy tons of classic games for $3 a pop. Man, that's the cheapest yet. Check this out. I paid $3 for Activision's legendary Venetian Blinds.
Amazing. Amazing. I'd pay
Put a dollar amount on me, please.
No. I'd pay $3 for that. That's riveting gameplay.
Landscape of digital storefronts must have been a tricky thing to figure out. I mean, what do you price digital content at? And
I literally cannot escape War Thunder. I literally cannot escape it.
those early years, smaller, digital-only titles and classic games were the only things really on offer, and generally, these would be $5 to $15. Or whatever the hell Microsoft points are. Yeah, I don't know why this was done on Xbox 360, Wii, Nintendo DSi, using a point system in place of actual currency.
I think it's the same thing as like Primogems and like Genshin, or like insert your like arbitrary currency here, silver, platinum, whatever. I think it might have to do with taxes, or it might have to do with some sort of like not taking direct payment, but buying into that walled ecosystem, right? I'm sure that there's some kind of tax thing on this though too.
Could I launder with this? At least Nintendo's USD to Wii point conversion made sense.
Was 1 to 1.
Microsoft points?
Yeah.
Is this math even English? But hey, Microsoft deserves some credit because they pushed the boundaries of digital storefronts and began offering full retail Xbox 360 games as downloadable releases.
Right, makes you also feel like you're not spending money. It also obfuscates how much you're actually spending, yeah.
Games on demand. What an incredible idea, especially since you no longer have to manufacture a physical product, ship it off to retailers who then get a cut of the profit. Well, I'd assume the price point here should be the exact goddamn same, if not more expensive than buying these games at GameStop. Well, aren't I not disappointed? This initiated the age-old question. Shouldn't digital games be cheaper? I mean, sure, these days you see a ton of digital sales going on, but when they ain't, games are often just flat out MSRP. And this
I thought that's what Nintendo tried to do, was they tried to, there's a premium for getting a physical cart, right? A physical cart and box. That's what's trying to be normalized now.
It was even worse back in the day. Sales weren't as common, and the 360 games available on demand were usually older releases that you could pick up for dirt cheap physically, but on the digital store, they were like $30. I remember PlayStation Vita games were generally quite a bit less expensive digitally, but for the most part, that was an anomaly. It seems that most don't want to lessen the value of their game just because it's digital. I mean, to these companies, there's functionally no difference between these two products other than this one costs you more to produce, so theoretically, you could raise the price of this, but then the retailers you're selling it at are gonna be pissed you're driving customers away from them, and you can't just—
Isn't that what's happening with Microsoft right now? I heard something about because Xbox has kind of gone nuclear at this point. Like, I guess Costco and other retailers are like liquidating in some capacity. I heard something about this specifically recently as of reacting to this, because they're kind of like, Xbox is kind of shooting itself in the foot, right? For all intents and purposes, like they're kind of like going nuclear on their gaming division. So I heard that retailers have been really not necessarily fighting back, but they've definitely reacted. Costco stopped selling Xbox consoles entirely because no one was buying them. Got it. Thank you.
just tell them to go themselves, because where the hell else are you gonna buy your game console? And if the standard with digital games was for them to be, say, $10 cheaper, well then that is the actual value of your product right there. And that looks fucking nasty. You ever see when new games are priced lower than usual? The response generally isn't, oh boy, what a deal. It's, wait, what's wrong with it?
Exactly.
Sega priced all major Sonic releases.
That literally any Nintendo game now priced under 80. What's wrong with it? Why does Nintendo not think this is worth 80?
For a few years there at $39.99, starting with Sonic Forces.
Now, you cannot possibly sell genuine dog shit for $60. Especially when the market value is 40.
Sega did this due to the Sonic franchise being a bit down in the dumps at the time. So how else do you get people back in your corner? Well, sell them mediocre products priced accordingly. Oh, well, as long as it's not charging me $60, you can do whatever you want to me, Sega. Eventually, with the release of Sonic Frontiers, they swapped things over to $60 to showcase how Sonic games were high-quality AAA experiences worthy of the investment. Then Sonic Superstars released a year later and was 5 hours long.
Could have been worse.
And I don't think it's fair all the time to judge a game's price by how long it takes to complete the main story. Like, there's so much else you need to consider here. The economy? That piece of shit. He's making my Sonic games suck. I mean, look back at the 90s when everything was more affordable. You got Sonic and Knuckles on the Sega Genesis for $60.
Damn.
Okay, but hey, Sonic and Knuckles is a special cartridge. One that locks...
I've never used Sega consoles, so watching, like looking at these carts and how they actually plug into the console is weird to me.
On to Sonic 3, which released earlier that same year for $60. Yeah, these games separately are each one half of the intended Sonic the Hedgehog 3 experience. Sonic 3 on its own had like half the levels that Sonic 2 did because they were forced to put the game out early and finish it later. Yet these were still each sold at full price. Well, actually, full price back.
You know what would be a banger collab idea? We were literally talking about, last night I was in mod chat, And Armand Rev brought up, remember how they incentivized you getting certain Yu-Gi-Oh cards? The Pyramid of Light movie, if you want a Blue Eyes Shining Dragon, Theon and the Great Sphinx, Pyramid of Light, the trap card, you were going to go watch that movie again and again and again and again, right, to get the packs. Back in the day, back in the oldie days, not only did we have, like, you know, the gold Pokemon card things in the Pokeballs from Burger King, but we also, there was a couple things they did where they had, like, tiny discs. Like, they actually had, like games that a couple fast food places handed out, like, with their meals, right? So hear me out, right? We have them use some of, like, those spare CD-ROMs, not Blu-rays, right? But like CD-ROMs that they just have lying around, right? Because I guarantee you that there's warehouses full of these things that you can get on the cheap, or that they do already have on hand on the cheap because everything's gone over to Blu-ray at this point. Or I guess you could have it. Well, I would say maybe not by a USB because that opens up some liability, right? But like you just have like a Sonic collab, right? And you have like, I don't know, like I'm saying that we effectively go back to demo discs, right? Or I'm saying that, like, you know, you go to like McDonald's and instead of them offering you like a whatever Happy Meals offer now, I guess they give codes and stuff out now, which is so weird to me, right? Like they give you a disc with like Sonic 1 on it because it's strictly for that promotion, and so it helps feed into other things, right? Like that's what, I don't know. I feel like they wouldn't do it, but I feel like it's something that I would like to see a return to, especially if they're able to do it on the cheap. I think it'd be a very cool way to incentivize going to fast food. Like, it's a value proposition. You go to McDonald's, Burger King, Wendy's, whatever, right? And with this, we'll call it an adult meal, right? And with this adult meal, you will get a disc of Sonic Adventure DX or something like that. I don't know. I think the value proposition, while it's there, I think they would be seen as benefiting the consumer too much. I think that you'd have to find a way to DRM that. You don't know what they're going to do with that personally. It's why I moved away from the idea of USB sticks, because, like, you know, somebody could put a virus on it, right? But somebody could put a virus on the disc too. I don't know. I would very much love a return to value proposition, incentivize me doing things, because I guarantee you, if there was like, hey, go to fast food place, get an adult meal, and like, yeah, you spend $30 for this meal, but you get like an actual like jewel case of like Diablo 1. Thanks, Activision Blizzard. Bro, I'd be into that. I would go there every single day for a week. 100%.
In the 90s would be what, $70, $80, $90, $100? Argument here is, well, these were cartridges. They had to manufacture more with them, oftentimes including dedicated chips to bring you more innovative graphical effects, larger, longer experiences. Once they moved over to CDs, those were cheaper to mass produce. So these cartridges had actual excuses to be so expensive.
I mean,
look at Mickey Mania on SNES and Genesis compared to Sega CD.
Where were you at the boycott?
To be fair, on average, games on CDs were less expensive than cartridges, but the difference in price isn't that drastic. We're talking $5 to $10 off, or hell, sometimes there's no price difference. But hey, if cartridges cost this much, I'd take any discount I could get. Now, keep in mind,
I think this is a good thing to showcase, because this literally showcases that this is not a new practice in the games industry.
Like Phantasy Star 4, Shining Force 2, Final Fantasy 3. These were some of the biggest gaming experiences at the time of their release. You couldn't really get a Meteor package in 1994 if you tried, so higher price points make sense. But do highest price points make sense? And let's not forget about inflation. Listen, I'm not gonna act like I understand much economically, but I can do a mean Googling of inflation. Inflation is a funny little bugger because many use it to instantly prove, well, actually, as you can see, we're getting bargains these days. They were selling games for $200 in today's cash. Yeah, that's true, but man, $70 is still an awful lot of money for a piece of entertainment these days.
It is.
Just because this was the value of $1 back then doesn't mean it entirely makes sense for games to be that price now.
Also games like functioned. You also, hear me out, you also owned your games. Me buying quote unquote Battlefield 6 on Steam, I don't own the game. I bought a license to interact with the game for as long as the service is up, as, you know, unless they redact it, right? Or unless, I don't know, I get banned for some reason, right? I don't cheat. I don't aimbot. I don't do anything. I could just be bad enough that I get mistaken for a bot and banned, though. That's 100% the thing that can happen. Like, I don't own the game. Wage of living is the cost of living, yeah. Like, that's the thing, is like, the costs have gone up, but like the actual what you make, like, what did I do? I went to Jack in the Box last night. Well, this morning at like 6 a.m. because no one, like everyone else is serving breakfast. I can't stand breakfast fast food. And it was like $20 for like burger, soda, fry, and jalapeno popper. So imagine that exact same order, even like 5 or 10 years ago, right? 20 years ago even, right? And the difference in that cost and how that's gone up versus you still make $7.25 as minimum wage. Like that's still like federal minimum wage in the US, right? Like you look at a McDonald's menu from like circa what, 1980? And you'll see like a fish fillet for like $1 or something like that. Like coffee's at 50 cents. Compare that to nowadays, right? Costs have gone up astronomically, but the line for what you actually make on average has remained the same, to which the counterpoint becomes, well, minimum wage generally, yes, legally it is still, $7.25, sometimes less, about like $3.25 in Idaho, I think, if you make tips, server. However, when's the last time you've seen anyone try to hire for anything under 12 to 14? You would be correct, but the lines are still out of whack. Like, it is still not a 1-to-1.
Figuring junk out in the 90s. Video games were still a fairly new technology, and eventually, this general price point was considered the standard, what people are willing to pay. Increasing it raises questions. It's the same thing for all these other entertainment mediums. The Back to the Future trilogy on VHS was $56 back in '93. That's $125 these days. What, you think 3 movies on Blu-ray is worth that much? My point is, nobody would genuinely look at a $200 game and say, well, the value of $1 is ever changing, so this is the natural price point of a video game in the current year. I can't claim to fully understand how much was too much back in the 90s, but I can claim to have heard a bunch of 40-year-olds yap about it. It seems that while everybody knew games were piss expensive back then,
Why is this expensive?
it was more accepted than it is today because everything felt a bit more justified.
Yeah.
I mean, even if they were overcharging for Phantasy Star 4, you can bring up a bunch of reasons why it was so expensive. Mario Galaxy 1+2 on Switch being $70? There's no reason for that other than Nintendo just valuing those experiences at that price.
Yeah.
And as time goes on, we're seeing less and less actual deals because these companies don't have as much to prove anymore.
Nintendo can also just brick your Switch 2 on a whim, or if something happens, or you rename your name to Twinklink. They could just brick your entire system. I don't think you can just, via internet, brick someone's NES. Hear me out. I'm not super tech savvy. I don't think that's something that you can do.
Games are now the leading form of entertainment. This is where people spend most of their money to have a good time. So an extra controller, that used to be something you had to be convinced to buy via bundles. Now, they're like, we know you're gonna buy this eventually. We don't need to give you nothing. Boom! $90.
Yep.
Just to get greatest hits, platinum hits, player's choice releases of some of the best games at reduced prices. Normally $20 a pop. Now, nobody wants to undervalue their franchises. They don't want to put their games on sale unless they absolutely have to because everybody wants their content to be seen as the best of the best. Cheap is seen as bad.
So I actually bought Stellar Blade. I was warned against streaming it because I guess, I don't know, there's something about the game. I don't know if it's like, I don't know what about it. I don't know if it's like Dead Space, like slasher. I don't genuinely know what Stellar Blade is. I do own it. I know next to nothing about it, if I'm being completely honest. Like, I was going to play it at some point. I don't know if that's a stream or an off-stream game.
Horizon Zero Dawn Remastered is getting released at $50? Well, now we got to take the $20 PS4 version on digital stores and double it to $40 because we need to maintain consistent brand value. And listen, I can't believe I'm mourning the lack of player's choice. I don't like the man I've become, and that's what money does to you. But as piss ugly as this is,
Why is this ugly?
you can definitely suck it up when you see the price. 20 bones for some of the best games on their respective platforms. Absolutely incredible. But
I miss it, dude.
I guess games at that low price just aren't possible these days. Oh.
Hi, Silk Song.
So these guys are just assholes,
Shaw!
man.
Listen, video games have always been some of the pricier forms of entertainment, and we can find an endless supply of stupid-ass price points throughout history to point at and go, see? Things have always sucked! But I think a big difference between rising prices then and now is how enough never feels like enough anymore. Prices of games aren't just high, now we're begging you to pay for the DLC, microtransactions, a subscription to play online multiplayer.
You know, I actually really hate that COD points is abbreviated CP. I don't know how that passed. Like we had the Pokemon leaks, right? And you know how like certain designs were changed, like certain Team Skull isms were changed because, you know, it could have alluded to SS imagery, like the SS logo, right? How did that pass? How did COD points being abbreviated to CP in game? How did that happen? Oh, if we want to talk about 14, yeah, this hits near and dear.
Subscriptions for the game itself, subscriptions in the game itself, the deluxe edition, the special edition console, which is more expensive than the standard one and doesn't include the game, extra accessories, the previous game in the series, which is still full price, the collector's edition, which doesn't include a physical copy of the game. Comes with a case for it though.
Yep.
And oh wait, you're not buying into all this? Oh Jesus Christ, it must be those damn developers of ours. Very rarely do I see something I consider a good deal these days. Something's either at a price point I deem fair enough, or it's absolutely overpriced. Now, I still buy a lot of stuff I think is overpriced because I have no shame. But
I buy a lot of stupid stuff. The copy of XD and Coliseum that I got, those copies that I just pulled out, they're my second English copies. Because I want to see if I can try to take like a link cable from one GameCube into another and kind of do like maybe rentals back. I want to see what's possible, right? I didn't need them. I didn't need my third and fourth pocket analog. If I feel that something is fair, well, I have 4 pocket analogs because Gen 3 has berry mixing, right? Like you go to the not Slateport, Lily Cove City, and you can like berry mix and stuff, and that's how you get like really good Pokeblocks, right? Like I will buy stuff. Don't underestimate my ability to buy stupid stuff. I absolutely do. But I have to deem it fair, and I have to have there has to be a value proposition.
while I'm willing to do that sometimes, it becomes harder and harder to justify as the value just isn't there with a lot of these high prices. Back then, when a game was up there in price, there was more often than not an excuse for it. Now, their excuse is that they want more money. And that just doesn't bode well for this parasocial relationship I've been working my ass off on. Well, as much as I can complain about how expensive modern gaming has become, let's take one last look at gaming prices throughout the years, as everybody mourns differently. Games for the Neo Geo AES were generally $199 a piece.
Damn.
Same price as a Super Nintendo. Here's the thing. These games were considered arcade perfect, which is everything you could possibly ask for back then. The arcade was where you saw the latest and greatest in graphics. Then you'd go, well, damn, I gotta get this for my home console.
Damn.
I'm never saying words again. Neo, I lied. Geo, by comparison, gave you the same experience as the arcades, and thus was considered a luxury product.
Right.
This wasn't really seriously competing with Nintendo and Sega because it was for a completely different market. Serious players only. You gotta be a die-hard enthusiast to get anything out of these games at this price, because for most consumers, you can pick up the Super Nintendo or Genesis versions of these things at a fraction the cost that, while downgraded, were more or less pretty faithful ports.
I actually really like how he's like, I'm not saying words again. Immediately says he lies. I love that bit. And I think this is the faux pas Nintendo tried making with the $80 games, is that they're trying to appeal as a luxury. And that's why, notice throughout my explanation, right? My explanations of why I think this way. I bought a premium console. I expect premium $80 games, right? This ties directly into this. This ties directly into selling it as a luxury. But as it turns out, clearly that seemed to affect their bottom line.
Also, the Neo Geo AES itself was priced like this. Hi, it's 1991. I can afford a Neo Geo AES and Neo Geo AES games. My name is Jesus Christ.
But hey, even if you didn't have a Neo Geo, you still had opportunities to buy games at the price points of full-blown consoles, like Virtual Racing on the Sega Genesis, costing $100.
Wild.
I mean, look at the original arcade game released back in 1992. It would take a satanic ritual to get this to run on a Genesis.
Welcome to hell.
Okay, well, Virtual Racing definitely couldn't run on this hardware without some finagling.
Right.
Yeah, that's what was done here.
That's a
Hence
word.
why this cartridge is probably more complex than a microwave. But that complexity came at a steep price for a game you could get on more powerful platforms at such a lower price. Strange how things have sort of swapped around, where a game on lesser hardware is generally not as expensive, but back
Right.
then, you know how many men had to die to get this on a Genesis cartridge? Well, game development and
7.
publishing is a different beast now. Not everything is as difficult or simple as it was back in the 90s, like adding new content and tweaks to an existing package. Nowadays, you can push out a free update or not, but back then, well, we already see what they did with Sonic 3 and Sonic & Knuckles, but take a look at the whole suite of Street Fighter 2 releases. Nearly $80 for the initial SNES port. A year later, you get Street Fighter 2 Turbo for $74. Oh boy, a discount. A month later, Special Champion Edition on Genesis, also for $74, followed by Super Street Fighter 2 that next summer for $70. And guess what? Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo was already out in the arcades by the time these ports released. And for the home version of that, you'd have to pick up a Panasonic 3DO, which launched at the price of, what the that's a number?
Hot
To
damn.
be fair, a lot of these crazy prices back then were definitely special cases. New games often hovered around $50 to $60 ever since the NES era, and as the years have gone by, with lower cost discs becoming the standard medium for video games, this variable pricing began to fade away, which made it that much harder for gamers to accept it later on. Resident Evil Revelations was originally announced to retail for $49.99 on the Nintendo 3DS, when the standard price of games there was $39.99.
Oh, so that's why this mob's been outside for the past 14 years.
You read comments on the message boards back then, people were livid, saying Capcom completely f***ed up on this one right here.
This comes back to, so what he's been explaining throughout the video is that it's expectations, right? So I would say the moral of the video is that I was gonna get to this, Sam, but now is a good time as any, right? The moral of the video is that the value proposition is not there. Back in ye olde days, sure, prices were equatable, prices were even higher potentially, but there was value and there were certain expectations. And especially if you're going with an arcade perfect game, that is a luxury. That is not to your standard player, right? So there are differences there. When we talk about, why people would be upset at $50 versus $40, like, it's because of the expectation, right? Like nowadays, yeah, Pokemon Ultra Sun, Ultra Moon, Omega Ruby, Alpha Sapphire, right? Pokemon 3DS games, they used to be, 40? Now they're like 60 when I try to find them used, right? That's just how that works, right? Demand, supply and demand, right? Also, Pokemon as a name is very powerful, very commanding in the gaming sphere. Like, there is an expectation of, I am buying a 3DS game. This should not exceed $40. Say you're in the time, right? It's current. Selling a 3DS game for $60 is a fast way to just turn people off. Like, people see $60, even if you're the best Pokemon game ever, and just move the other way, right? Because it's $60, right? If you're on Xbox, and you say you're on Xbox One, PlayStation 5, and you see a game for $69.99, sure, you're a little hesitant. You want to make sure that it's worth your time. Maybe look at a couple of reviews and stuff like that. Maybe look at like Actman or something, right? Cool. Is this Payday 3 game good or not? Yes, no. No, probably going to pass, right? But if Payday 3 was like $50, you might be a little more tempted, right? The expectation is around $60 for console games, right? At least currently. So when we go into Nintendo, where it's like, yeah, you're dealing with older tech for all intents and purposes. What? It's like Switch 2 is equatable to like a PS4, something like that, right? The expectation isn't $70 or $80. It's just not. The expectation's more, around 50 to 60. That's what people would say is fair and reasonable. So thus, that's why you're trying to see that. Yes, I saw they added a subscription to 2, and I think it's Payday 3 is going so well for them, isn't it? That they have to add a subscription to Payday 2. That's beside the point, though. And then there's also like subscription services and stuff like that. I disagree with 14 having a subscription model if they have such an aggressive cash shop. I think you have to pick one or the other. If I would play World of Warcraft, what did I send Pants last night? How to solo Spine of Deathwing Easy 2024 guide. If World of Warcraft didn't have a subscription fee, I'd play it. I'd learn how to raid. I would do it. 100%. But I'm not going to play a game that has a subscription fee and also sells you like a $90 Brontosaurus mount that gives you your own post box wherever, right? Like Lord of the Rings Online, sure, I pay for premium, but even then, people say premium isn't even worth it anymore. It used to be worth a lot more. It used to have more tangential benefits, and I might let it lapse after my year is done because I'm not seeing the return from it personally. Sure, you get your like material storage thing, and you get like a token that you can activate, and it's you're acting like you're interacting with the vendor as if you were in town, right? Like you can repair your gear and stuff, but like. Sure, it's not the same as it was when I started back in when Shadows of Angmar was current, right? Back on CD-ROM, it's just not the same to me. Final Fantasy 14, a lot more players would play 14 if it didn't have a sub fee, and even then, the 14 released a new cosmetic. I don't remember what it was, but people were saying you literally could buy this cosmetic set or buy like Final Fantasy Tactics, right? You have to pick and choose, especially when you have things in like your pay to win, like if it goes like pay to win territory. If you have things in your game that go pay to win territory, like the stupid World of Warcraft mount that lets you have a mailbox anywhere, you have to pick and choose. Are you going to have the sub fee or are you going to have a cash shop? You really can't have both. I disagree with having, but then again, obviously it's like, well, Halo Infinite, you had to buy Halo Infinite, and you had to. Then you had all the cash shop stuff like that. I don't know. Like there's discussions to be had here. A big sticking point with MMOs is the subscription fee right now, especially when games like RuneScape just don't provide value on a game that is as old as it is. Even RuneScape 3, the newest one, right? Well, technically OSRS would be newer technically. It just doesn't have the value for a lot of players, and that becomes a huge sticking point.
It didn't matter that $50 was still less than most.
Oh, multiplayer is free? Oh, then I take that back. Okay, yeah. Like you have a free game, right? People don't complain about Overwatch because it's free. People sure, like Marvel Rivals, free game, free to play, right? Destiny 2, free to play. Cash Shop is viewed as fairly okay.
Home console games were going for. Didn't matter that they had to use a 4GB cartridge for the game, which raised costs. Didn't matter that this was a full-fledged AAA Resident Evil game and the most graphically impressive thing on the 3DS. The fact of the matter is, it's $50, and handheld games can't be $50. Mm-hmm. Listen, in my opinion, this was a situation where the higher price, to me, felt justified. I'm not saying anybody should have been thrilled to buy it, but considering everything this game was, I personally thought, fair enough to this. But see, Capcom took the complaints to heart and spent months working out a deal to bring the price down $10 before its launch. And people still bitched! My God, you look at how—
It's because you set that price anchor. Look at what I've been doing. Kip, Nintendo literally is backtracking on the $80 thing. Yes, they're variable pricing $70, but they've been backtracking. But that's exactly what I'm embodying. They set that anchor by saying $80. They have now put in people's mind that is the price point. That is an anchor, right? This is the exact same concept.
People were talking back then, and it's like the same thing these days, but this at least seems reasonable compared to this. But what? It's just life at this point? Are we gonna look back at Mario Kart World in 10 years and go, oh, we had it so good. We bitch about prices being high compared to what they were, which we're still bitched about. But when there are loads of people willing to pay $100 to get 4 days early access to Forza Horizon 5 on PS5, I guess you can just price your games at whatever the early access. The game is 4 years old.
The prices that most video games are at isn't necessarily a representation of their actual value. Mm-hmm. It's the highest price point they think they can get away with. But even though these companies set the prices, it's up to you at the end of the day to decide if they're worth it or not. Now, you can't control what other people buy or if they think a price is worth it or not. But who the hell cares? Your opinion is worth its weight in gold. That's the only thing that matters here. If you thought Resident Evil Revelations was a sham at $50, I can disagree, but I can't say you're wrong. You decide if this game is worth its price point, not the company. Hell, you can decide if it's free or not depending on how far you're willing to go.
Oh my God. It's been really funny to watch how increased games prices has been a justification. Well, even then, not just increased games prices, but like even movies as well, right? Has been especially streaming services in the streaming wars, has very much been a justification for piracy. Not that I legally can say to do it, obviously. Piracy is reprehensible. No one would do that. Absolutely, right? Nobody in good faith would pirate. What I can say is that's the discussion that gets had, is it becomes a discussion in regards to, well, and then there's another discussion as well, like what happens when nobody wants to pirate your thing, right? That is true obscurity, right? You apathy is death, kind of thing. But I thought this was great. I thought this was a great note. I think it was good because he explored both sides of the argument. Games prices have been more expensive before. This is kind of expectation. This is how this kind of went. This is why people are upset when you set a price anchor, and that that's what people tend to latch on to. And there is also an expectation depending on what console you're on and what you're expecting, right? And at the end of the day, you determine if it's worth it or not. If you think Mario Kart World is worth $80, go for it. Sure. If you think that GTA 6 should be $200, sure, go for it. Right. Ultimately, that is subjective. I think there is some objectivity into it in regards to looking at, is a company charging this because it's what it's worth or because they think they can get away with it, right? And a lot of the time it's because they can get away with it, right? A lot of the times it's, they're charging $80 because like this game is buggy and broken and it's because they just wanted to charge it, right? And price is not an indicator of quality. They are not the same, right? Correlation is not causation, as it were. And come to your own educated conclusion. I liked it. I thought it was a great video. Thank you for watching. Thank you, Scott the Woz, for an amazing upload. I really do appreciate this. I don't know how I made this an hour. Sorry about that. Sorry for almost 3xing the video. And I will see you all in the next one.